Stars burn cold and distant beyond the obsidian hull of the Vraxis Prime. Admiral Jarin Vok stood before the viewing pane, his mandibles flexing in faint irritation as another human colony died below. The outpost's atmosphere burned crimson. Plasma storms rolled across its surface like liquid fire. From orbit, it looked almost beautiful, a fragile world shattering beneath Dominion precision. He tapped one claw on the console board. "End transmission," he said. The screams of the colony's defenders faded, replaced by the low hum of power conduits. Another nest of primitives erased. Mark the coordinates and move on. His sub-commander, a pale-scaled officer named Larrick, hesitated. "Admiral, with respect, the Council's edicts forbid expansion into this sector." The Terran Accord. Jarin's eyes flared, molten gold under the bridge lights. "The Council is weak. They fear myths and dead empires. These humans are scattered vermin. If the galaxy forbids us to step here, then it hides something valuable." He turned sharply, his long coat sweeping across the floor. "Plot the next incursion point. I want to see their home system." The bridge fell silent. No one argued further. The Dominion had conquered a dozen civilizations, each more advanced than the last, and Jarin had never faced defeat. His reputation was forged from relentless efficiency, his name whispered in alien tongues as a conqueror who broke worlds for sport. He had risen from the dust of the outer rings through intellect and brutality alike, and he had learned to mask his doubts beneath command. Yet as he watched the burning colony fall into shadow, a strange unease flickered at the edge of his thoughts. He dismissed it. Moments later, the stars stretched into white ribbons. The fleet entered slipspace, engines howling in perfect synchronization. When the distortion eased, they emerged into a quiet system of pale light and vast emptiness. Larrick frowned at the readings. "Multiple signals, Admiral. Automated stations. Human in design. But no response. No transmissions at all." Jarin stepped closer to the hollow map. "No defenses. None detected." He bared his teeth in a grin. "Then it's as we expected. Undefended, unclaimed, unworthy. Begin the sweep." Fleets of dark, blade-shaped ships fanned outward, gliding through the void with silent grace. They reached the first station, a cylindrical structure orbiting a dying moon. It was deserted. No life signs, no energy, only drifting machines. A Dominion officer reported confusion through the comms. "Sir, this station is decades old. The systems are functional but dormant, as if abandoned intentionally." Jarin gave a short, humorless laugh. "Perhaps they ran when they saw us coming." But the officer's voice wavered. "There are no signs of struggle, Admiral, and the power cores were shut down cleanly. Whoever was here wanted us to find it this way." Jarin's amusement faltered. "Keep searching." Hours passed in quiet dread. Every station, every listening post, empty. No distress calls, no defense grids. Just silence. The Dominion fleet moved deeper, its sensors chasing ghost signals that flickered and vanished like mirages. Larrick finally spoke, his voice hushed. "This feels wrong, sir. It's as if they're leading us somewhere." Jarin turned on him sharply. "Leading us? You give these primitives too much credit. They're scavengers, not strategists." Still, the word lingered, leading. He remembered the warnings etched into ancient Dominion archives, lines no one dared to question. Prohibited zone, human space. Contact forbidden. Cause classified. He had mocked such words as superstition. Now he felt a flicker of something unfamiliar, curiosity mixed with doubt. "Prepare the long-range array," he ordered. "I want full scans of the inner system." When the image of a small blue planet appeared at the center of the projection, a murmur rippled through the bridge. Clouds swirled above its oceans, light glinting off its surface like a polished gem. Jarin stared at it for a long moment. "So this is Earth," he murmured. "The fabled origin. It looks harmless." Larrick's throat plates fluttered nervously. "Admiral, if the Accords are correct, that world is." "Enough," Jarin interrupted. "I am not interested in ancient fears. We'll take orbit and scan the surface. If their fleet hides there, we'll crush it. If not, we claim their cradle." As the fleet adjusted course, a faint signal cracked across the comms, barely audible, more interference than sound. The bridge fell silent. It wasn't human distress. It was deliberate, controlled, almost surgical in clarity. The translation matrix struggled, then stabilized. A voice spoke in perfect Dominion standard, calm, measured human. "You shouldn't have come here." Jarin froze. The bridge crew exchanged uneasy glances. Larrick whispered, "They're speaking our language." "Impossible," Jarin said, though he heard the tremor in his own tone. "Trace the source." The technician's claws danced across the interface. "Origin point, surface of the third planet." "But Admiral, the signal isn't broadcasting. It's embedded in our systems." Static followed, then silence. The bridge lights dimmed for a fraction of a second, systems flickering under an external pulse. Warnings cascaded across the displays, navigational locks, weapon safeties overridden, communications severed. The Dominion fleet, for the first time in centuries, was blind. Jarin clenched his fists. "What is this? Sabotage?" "No, sir," Larrick replied, his voice barely steady. "This is control." A cold shiver passed through the Admiral. He had underestimated them, these quiet, disappearing humans. For years, he had dismissed the myths that once, long before the Dominion rose, humanity fought wars that scarred half the known stars. That, after their final conflict, they sealed their borders and vanished. That the rest of the galaxy signed treaties never to return. He had thought those stories exaggerated, galactic bedtime tales of an extinct predator. Yet now, as the calm voice repeated, "You shouldn't have come," he felt the weight of every forgotten warning. Outside, the fleet hung motionless, trapped in invisible threads of gravity. Jarin looked out at Earth again, its oceans glimmering beneath the sun. It did not look like a world capable of fear. It looked like one waiting. He straightened, forcing composure back into his tone. "Signal all ships. Maintain formation. If they think they can frighten us with tricks, they're mistaken." But as he spoke, the stars flickered. One by one, Dominion vessels began to vanish from the tactical map. No explosions, no energy traces, just gone. The bridge filled with hushed panic. Larrick turned toward him, eyes wide with realization. "Admiral, they're not fighting us. They're testing us." Jarin stared at the fading blips. For the first time in his long, decorated career, he had no order to give. Only silence remained and the blue planet below. And deep within that silence, he thought he heard something vast and ancient awaken. The Dominion fleet hung in orbit like a swarm of dark knives, their formation fractured by confusion and fear. Admiral Jarin paced the command deck, his composure slipping beneath the weight of silence. The hum of the Vraxis Prime felt louder than ever, as though the ship itself held its breath. Every monitor that should have displayed their fleet status now showed static or empty voids. Half the vessels were gone, simply erased from existence, without light, fire, or wreckage. Jarin's claws tightened around the rail. "Report," he demanded. Larrick's trembling hands flickered through holographic data streams. "All systems unresponsive beyond our immediate network. No warp lanes, no beacons. It's as if space folded them away." "Impossible," Jarin hissed. "No civilization has technology capable of—" He stopped himself. A faint voice again whispered through the static, calm and deliberate, human. "You've trespassed into restricted territory. Withdraw immediately." He stared at the sound. There was no threat in it. That frightened him more than rage ever could. "They believe they can dictate terms," he muttered. Then, louder, "Transmit my response. Dominion fleets do not retreat before lesser species." The calm officer hesitated. "Sir, they've overridden our transmitters. We can receive only, not send." For a heartbeat, no one moved. Jarin's breath came slow and deliberate. He was a conqueror, raised to crush resistance through fear and dominance. Yet in that moment, he understood the power of silence as a weapon. The humans weren't fighting for victory. They were demonstrating ownership. A sudden tremor rippled through the ship. Larrick shouted, "Gravitational distortion, bearing 019. Outside the viewport, a patch of space shimmered like liquid glass. Something vast emerged, its surface matte black, geometry alien even to Dominion eyes. It reflected no light, cast no shadow, an absence given shape. Human symbols flared briefly across its hull, incomprehensible yet purposeful. Then, without warning, the void closed again, and another Dominion cruiser vanished. No explosion, no debris, just a flicker, then nothing. The crew froze. Jarin whispered, almost to himself, "What kind of weapon is that?" "Not a weapon," Larrick answered quietly. "A message." Jarin turned sharply. "Explain yourself. They're showing us control, not power." The words lodged in the Admiral's mind. He stared once more at the empty expanse where his fleet had been. The humans weren't retaliating, they were pruning. Selective, surgical, deliberate. Focus our long-range sensors on the third planet, he ordered, forcing authority back into his voice. If they are capable of manipulating matter itself, their infrastructure must reveal the source. The sensors obeyed, but the image that formed wasn't of defense grids or fleets. It was a city. Not sprawling, not chaotic, organized perfection. Thousands of orbital constructs encircling Earth like silent sentinels, each one cloaked until now. His breath caught. They've hidden a planetary armada right under the galaxy's nose. Larrick's voice was faint. We should leave, Admiral. Jarin wanted to strike him for saying it. Dominion commanders did not retreat. Yet the word should echoed in his thoughts. He had led exterminations, crushed resistance worlds without hesitation. But this was different. The humans didn't appear angry. They appeared patient. Prepare the warp drives, he said finally, and set course for Dominion space. We'll regroup, Anne. Before he could finish, the bridge lights dimmed. The navigation core flickered out. One by one, the Dominion sigils on the console were replaced by human characters, cold white letters glowing against black. Then, Admiral Kira, Holt's face appeared on the main display. Her uniform was unadorned, her expression detached. Admiral Jarin Vok, she said evenly. Your species has violated a closed sector under Treaty 9412. You are ordered to cease operations and await inspection. Jarin straightened. You have no authority over the Dominion. Your threats are not threats, she interrupted softly. They are procedures. The precision of her tone rattled him. No bravado, no fury. Just certainty. Do you realize who I am? I know exactly who you are, Holt said. You've destroyed 11 human colonies in the last cycle. Every one of them was unmanned. You've been attacking decoys, Admiral. This was never an invasion, it was a demonstration. Her words struck like a blade through silence. Larrick looked at Jarin horrified. They let us. Jarin said nothing. Holt continued, her eyes unblinking. We have monitored your empire for a century. Your fleets, your hierarchy, your arrogance. We waited for the inevitable trespass. You did not disappoint. The display cut to black. Jarin's pulse pounded in his skull. Every colony they'd burned empty. Every victory, a test. They hadn't been hunters. They'd been bait. Rage surged through him, but beneath it was something colder, humiliation. He realized now why the old accords forbade human contact. Not out of pity, but terror. Humanity had learned long ago that peace required being underestimated. Admiral, Larrick said softly, what are your orders? Jarin looked out at the silent blue sphere below. He saw no weapons, no movement, just a world that dared to warn the galaxy to stay away. He thought of the hundreds of billions under Dominion rule, their faith in his invincibility. He could almost hear them whispering his name, in fear and reverence. Yet here he stood, a conqueror who trespassed into something ancient and prepared. His voice, when it came, was calm. Hold position. Do not fire unless fired upon. Larrick blinked. Sir, that's a command, Jarin finished. We don't fight what we don't understand. He turned his gaze toward Earth. For the first time in his life, the stars no longer looked like territory to be conquered. They looked like a warning carved into the dark. Somewhere in the distance, the human signal pulsed again, steady, patient, unafraid. It wasn't the voice of prey. It was the voice of a predator that had learned to wait. Jarin stared into the abyss and realized the war hadn't begun at all. It had just been permitted to reach this moment. The Dominion fleet limped through the black, its formation ragged and humiliated. The stars seemed different now, colder, sharper, as if the void itself had turned its gaze upon them. On the Vraxis Prime, Admiral Jarin sat in silence, his once impeccable uniform unfastened at the collar. His crew moved with the tentative quiet of soldiers who had glimpsed something their minds refused to name. No one spoke of Earth. No one dared. Yet the weight of that encounter hung in every breath. Larrick approached cautiously. Admiral, the Council demands a report. They're questioning the loss of half the fleet. Jarin did look up. His eyes traced the faint light of the stars outside the viewport. Tell them the fleet is intact, he said softly. Just no longer ours to command. Larrick frowned. Sir. Jarin finally turned. His expression was colder than the void itself. Half our ships were taken intact, not destroyed. Humanity didn't erase them, they kept them. The younger officer stiffened, unable to hide the tremor in his voice. For what purpose? Observation, Jarin murmured. They wanted to see how we react when faced with something greater than ourselves. He leaned back, the edge of his mouth curling in bitter amusement. And now the council will do exactly what they expect: deny, dismiss, and provoke. When the transmission from the Dominion High Council arrived, Jarin was ready for it. A wall of cold faces filled the hollow chamber, politicians and generals who had never seen combat. The Counselor of Expansion sneered down at him. Your report lacks credibility. Are we to believe that a primitive world displaced our fleets through sorcery? Jarin's jaw tightened. Call it what you wish. Their technology is beyond our comprehension. They controlled every variable of the engagement. A murmur rippled through the council. The Minister of War leaned forward, voice sharp. We've fought hundreds of civilizations. None could resist us. You were deceived. You mistook an anomaly for strength. Jarin felt his temper rise, but contained it. With respect, you didn't see them. They let us advance. They let us destroy what they built. They recorded our arrogance and then dismantled us without effort. Then we will retaliate, the minister snapped. You will lead the assault and restore Dominion pride. Larrick's breath caught. Another attack. Against them. Jarin said nothing for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost tired. If we attack again, there will be no pride left to restore. The Counselor of Expansion leaned back, a cruel smile playing across her features. Fear is unbecoming of a Dominion admiral. Jarin's eyes narrowed. This isn't fear. It's recognition. The connection severed abruptly, the holograms fading to darkness. Larrick exhaled, his voice a whisper. They don't believe you. They never do, Jarin replied. Empires never believe they can die until they're already ash. He turned from the console and walked toward the private observation deck. Outside, the scattered remnants of his fleet floated, like ghosts. He remembered the moment Holt's voice had filled his bridge, the quiet authority, the unflinching patience. It hadn't been the voice of an aggressor. It was the voice of inevitability. For the first time in his life, Jarin felt small. Every campaign he'd led, every world he'd crushed, suddenly seemed meaningless. Dominion victory had always relied on overwhelming force, not understanding. But humanity, those quiet predators, had turned understanding into a weapon. They had studied the Dominion, dissected its pride, and exposed its blindness without firing a single missile in anger. He replayed fragments of intercepted human transmissions, snippets gathered before their systems were wiped clean. There was no triumph, no gloating. Only order, precision, purpose. Phase complete. Containment stable. Begin observation cycle 2. The words echoed in his head, sterile and methodical. They hadn't fought him, they had catalogued him. Sir, Larrick said from behind, there's something else. One of the captured ships just reappeared on our outer scans. It's broadcasting a signal. Jarin turned sharply. Alive. Partially, Larrick replied. The crew's gone, but the vessel systems are changed. Its architecture has been rewritten. We can't access it. Show me. The view shifted to the recovered ship, a Dominion cruiser once identical to countless others, now transformed. Its hull shimmered with patterns of human code, flowing like liquid light. Where Dominion emblems once adorned the metal, now stood a single mark, an abstract circle, simple and unassuming, yet it carried the weight of inevitability. They're sending it back, Jarin said softly. A message to the Dominion. What kind of message? That they own the silence between our stars, Jarin murmured. He felt something unfamiliar twist in his chest, not anger, not humiliation, but admiration. Humanity had mastered the art of restraint. They had faced empires older than memory and chosen not to rule but to wait, to watch. He wondered how many times before they had done this, allowing arrogance to drift too close before reminding the galaxy of the forbidden line. Larrick spoke again, his tone quiet but urgent. Admiral, what will we do when the Council orders another incursion? Jarin's gaze stayed fixed on the haunted reflection of his ship in the viewport. We'll obey, he said, though the words felt like poison. But next time, we'll be walking into judgment, not battle. He dismissed Larrick with a gesture and remained alone in the half-dark. Outside, the Dominion cruiser with human markings drifted closer, silent and patient as a shadow. Jarin imagined Holt watching from her hidden command center, her expression as calm as before. He wondered if she pitied him, or if she even remembered his name. When the transmission came from the Council, a single command to prepare the fleet, he didn't hesitate to acknowledge it. But in his mind, he already knew how it would end. The Dominion believed it was about to reclaim its pride. Jarin knew it was about to meet extinction disguised as mercy. He turned once more to the stars, the same stars that had once seemed infinite, and now felt like the walls of a cage. "They warned us," he whispered, almost to himself, "and we mistook it for fear." The words vanished into the quiet hum of the ship, swallowed by the void that now belonged to someone else. The Dominion Armada emerged from slip space in fractured glory, thousands of warships arranged in the familiar, arrogant wedge that had once subdued entire civilizations. Their engines burned like false suns, defiant and bright against the infinite dark. But there was no music of triumph in their wake this time, only silence and the slow, dreadful certainty that they were marching towards something far beyond conquest. Admiral Jarin stood at the command dais of the Vraxis Prime, his reflection a ghost in the polished glass. Around him, his officers moved with disciplined precision, but their movements were mechanical, empty of the confidence that once defined them. Fear had hollowed them, and in its place, obedience had taken root. "The fleet reports readiness," Larrick said, voice subdued. "Council orders are clear. Total engagement, no negotiation." Jarin didn't respond immediately. His eyes remained fixed on the void ahead, where no human fleet yet appeared. "No negotiation," he echoed softly. "That's what they always say before they vanish from history." Before Larrick could answer, the ship's sensor shivered, one after another, silent pings of detection. Faint distortions rippled through space, then resolved into shapes. Not one, not 10, but hundreds of vessels, sleek, silver-gray, ghosting into view like predators rising from deep water. The humans had arrived. But there was no grand formation, no theatrical show of strength. Their ships moved with almost mathematical calm, spread across the void in a quiet geometry that made the Dominion's wedge look primitive by comparison. No sound, no hails, no threats, just an unbroken line of purpose stretching from one horizon to the next. Larrick's breath hitched. "They're waiting." Jarin nodded. "They always were." The Dominion Council's transmission cut through the silence, sharp and imperious. "Admiral, commence attack. You will restore the balance of order." No hesitation. Jarin's fingers hovered above the command seal. He hesitated. "Order," he murmured. "Yes, that's what they'll call this." He gave the command, but not to fire. "Hold formation. I want targeting scans. Every ship, every coordinate." "Admiral." Larrick turned, disbelief clear in his voice. "We strike blind, we die blind. Let's see what they want us to see." The scan began. A cascade of data streamed across the displays, then froze. The Dominion system stuttered, and the lights dimmed. "EMP interference," one officer asked, panic rising. "No," Jarin whispered. "That's not interference. That's infiltration." The main screen flickered, then steadied. A human face appeared, bathed in pale blue light. It was Commander Holt. Her expression was calm, eyes sharp as the stars behind her. "Admiral Jarin," she said, her voice even. "I warned you." This was the last line. Jarin felt the bridge go still. "You call this mercy?" "No," Holt replied. "This is prevention." He stepped closer to the screen. "You think you can erase us?" Her gaze didn't waver. "Not erase. Contain. We studied your history, the pattern of your rise, your endless expansion. You mistake survival for dominance. The galaxy cannot afford another empire built on that illusion." Jarin's tone hardened. "Then what are you, Commander?" "The arbiters of civilization." Her voice softened, and that was somehow worse. "We are what happens when civilizations forget what mercy costs." Before he could reply, the connection broke. Space itself seemed to shudder. The human ships shifted formation, curving inward, enclosing the Dominion Armada in a silent ring. No weapons fired. No missiles launched. Instead, faint glimmers of light pulsed between the human vessels, webs of energy folding, aligning, creating a sphere of impossible scale. "Admiral, gravitational distortions rising." Larrick shouted. "They're enclosing us, some kind of quantum field." "Pull back." Jarin barked. But it was too late. Space itself bent inward. The Dominion's ships flickered, engines sputtering, their weapon systems collapsing under interference, so precise it might as well have been surgical. One by one, their vessels were immobilized, held not by force but by command. Their systems recognized human control signatures. The fleet wasn't being destroyed. It was being claimed. Larrick turned, eyes wide with horror. They're taking the fleet. Jarin felt something break inside him. No, they already have it. And then came the light. A pulse spread across the void. No explosion, no fire, just a soft ripple, like dawn washing overnight. Every Dominion ship went dark. When power returned, they found themselves motionless, weapons deactivated, communication cut off. Holt's voice returned, calm and cold as before. The Dominion will stand down. Your systems are disarmed. Your war is over. The bridge fell silent. Larrick sank into his seat, trembling. What happens to us now? Jarin exhaled slowly. We live, he said, his tone hollow. And we remember. Moments later, the Vraxis Prime's viewport brightened again. This time, it wasn't Holt. It was a transmission from the Dominion Council, but their tone was different now. Frantic, disjointed, broken by interference. Jarin, respond. What is happening? Are we under attack? Jarin looked at the chaos behind him, then at the void beyond the glass, where human ships hovered like silent sentinels. He could almost feel their gaze. Yes, he said softly, but not the kind you understand. He cut the transmission. For a long time, the bridge was silent. Then Holt's final message came through, a simple transmission addressed only to him. Admiral, we are not your destroyers. You may govern what remains of your worlds under our supervision. Humanity seeks no empire, only balance. The galaxy will adapt. So will you. Jarin felt the weight of those words settle like stone. Balance. The word tasted strange, alien. He had lived his entire life chasing order through dominance, and now he realized what the humans had understood all along. True power didn't roar, it whispered. Larrick looked at him, eyes hollow. What do we do now, sir? Jarin watched as the human fleet turned away, their vessels vanishing into fold space without a sound. We rebuild, he said, and pray they never look back. He stood alone on the bridge after the crew had gone, gazing into the quiet dark. For the first time, the stars seemed alive, not as conquests to be claimed, but as warnings, glimmering with the quiet memory of something vast and watching. He thought of Holt, her calm voice, her unflinching restraint. She had given him his life, not out of mercy, but out of purpose. Humanity hadn't conquered the galaxy, they had awakened it. As the last human echo faded from his sensors, Jarin whispered to the void, you didn't just defend your home. You changed the meaning of power. Far across the silent expanse, unseen by any Dominion eye, Holt stood aboard her command ship, staring at the aftermath. The war was over, but her expression was not relief, it was contemplation. Now they know, she murmured to her crew. Why it was forbidden. The stars shimmered in answer, and for the first time in recorded history, the galaxy held its breath.